What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be going over some of the best gear and accessories for wide receivers. So we're going to be talking about helmets, pads, cleats, all that good stuff, and giving you guys some recommendations that I feel you need to have. So first thing I want to talk about, fellas, is a helmet. So helmets, you know, a little on the expensive side of things. Obviously, like, a helmet's not going to be a cheap thing that you buy. If you don't have the money to get a helmet too, the great part about football is that generally the program that you play for, the school that you go to, provides the gear. It's one of the best things about football. That's why so many football teams will fundraise so they can give this type of gear to people who can't afford it. But if you can't afford it, I always recommend to get your own, because you never know the quality that you're going to get, especially with shoulder pads, especially with a helmet, especially nowadays, because, you know, everybody's very hesitant with football, especially if they're new, in terms of head injuries. So you want to have a helmet that's on the higher rated side. There's a study that you could look up on Google. If you just type in Virginia Tech football helmet study, they go around and rank all the top helmets in terms of safety precautions. Now, I want to talk about probably 3 of my favorite ones that I recommend for you guys. That 2 of them are more cost efficient. One of them is going to be pretty expensive. So this is a Speed Flex. This is the helmet that I wore in high school and in college, and this is a great helmet. Insanely comfortable, easy to put on. Now, it's a little bit heavier than a helmet called a Schutt F7. And a Schutt F7 is probably another great helmet. Again, highly rated. Both of these helmets are highly rated, and they're on the more cost-efficient side of things when it comes to a helmet. They're not cheap by any means, but when it comes to a helmet and you're comparing it to other brands, they're on the cheaper side of things. So a Speed Flex at a Schutt F7. Now, there's a new helmet that came out that I like, which would be considered, it's like a Vices, like quarterback and wide receiver helmet. Vices, they came out, it's honestly a really nice helmet, you guys. I saw it the other day, was able to try it on the other day, and it's a very, very comfortable helmet. It feels very, very light, and it's insanely highly rated. Very expensive, I will tell you, but those are 3 that I recommend, especially for receivers. Now, fellas, before we get into the rest of this gear, if you are a quarterback or receiver watching this video and you would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches, we are going to be traveling out to 15 different cities across the entire country this year for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. So, guys, go to that very first link in the description below if you're interested and want to sign up. We'll be coming out to San Francisco, California, Orlando, Florida, Phoenix, Arizona. Then after Phoenix, we'll be heading out to Columbia, South Carolina, Seattle, Washington, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Nashville, Tennessee, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Austin, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Denver, Colorado, Columbus, Ohio, Boston, Massachusetts, Salt Lake City, Utah, and finishing it off in Los Angeles, California. So, guys, you want to sign up, want to get more information, go to that very first link in the description below. It's where you can get all the information, and we'd love to have you there. So, fellas, let's talk about cleats. So there's really 2 pairs of cleats that I'll recommend for receivers, and there's another pair that I recommend if you have wider feet, but they're a little bit on the heavier side of things, just a heads up. But if you struggle fitting into these 2 types of cleats that I recommend, I would recommend this 3rd brand that we're going to discuss. So first and foremost, I like any Adizero electric cleat. Those are the cleats that I wear literally in every single video, the Adizero electric cleats. Like, these cleats, insanely light. It feels like you're almost barefoot. Like, I don't know if any of you guys have ever worn like those barefoot shoes. Those are tough on your feet for sure. Adidas Adizero cleats are not tough on your feet, but you feel like you have like almost like a natural, like, higher arch in these. They're insanely light, they're very comfortable, and they've lasted me probably like 3 years if I'm being honest. So Adizero electric cleats are great. Now, this is a cleat that a company sent me. I'm not sponsored by them, it's just I'm always talking about them, so they gifted me a pair of cleats, which is very nice of them. But I'm like fully bought into these cleats because I wore them one time. An athlete that I trained actually wore them, but they're called Caddix. So Caddix brand, Caddix, kind of a newer brand, not the most popular brand. They're on the more expensive side of things. I think it's like $250 for some of these cleats. Again, I think it's worth the investment because they have this technology on the stud of the cleat where it's more like it like kind of is like rubber, if that makes sense, right? And you got to look it up on their website to give you like the full breakdown of the technology. But what it's for is to help you prevent knee injuries, which is so prevalent at the receiver position. I think so many receivers are anxious when they run their routes, nervous about making a certain cut because they don't want to put pressure on their knee, because you see all these videos online, you know, in college football, NFL ball, where guys are just rupturing their ACL, and we don't want that to happen. So these cleats, it like gives you a little bit more give. It's kind of like when you cut on grass. The argument is that turf is worse than grass when it comes to knee injuries, because when you cut on grass, the grass kind of gives. That's essentially what they're trying to do with the stud on this cleat. It gives you a little bit more give when you decide to make that cut. So that's a great brand. Now, sometimes guys who have wider feet, bigger feet, you know, maybe they don't like these types of cleats that are a little bit small, low top, I recommend New Balance. New Balance, guys, they have cleats specifically for wider feet players, so it's great. They're a little heavy, that's all I'm gonna say to you guys. So if you like lighter cleats, New Balance probably isn't the way to go, but it helps you if you struggle fitting into Adidas, fitting into Nike, fitting into a Cadix brand cleats. New Balance is what I'd recommend to you. Now, let's get into some shoulder pads, you guys. So when it comes to pads, there's 3 brands that I recommend. So number one's kind of the newer, like, battle pads, like kind of like, I think they call them like the Stormtrooper pads, but they have great pads, you guys. Like, I think so Zenith is a brand that I used to recommend, but they actually got bought out by Rydell. And not that Rydell's bad or anything like that, but I loved Zenith pads. The battle pads are like, honestly, like a photocopy of the Zenith pads. They're very, very light, very comfortable, tons of range of motion, which is what's most important for a wide receiver, because you got to be able to touch your hands over your head, you got to be able to catch a low pass. So being able to have that mobility in a pair of shoulder pads is super beneficial. So Battle's great. X-Tech is another great brand. They're on the more expensive side of things, but they allow you to make pads kind of custom to your frame, so you could take your measurements, send it in, and get a pair of pads, but they're expensive. Now, another brand that I always recommend that is on the expensive side of things, but that's 2-in-1 shoulder pads. Now, I train a lot of receivers who have these pads. I've worn these pads before, and they're some of the best in terms of mobility. Some people are a little hesitant because they feel like you're not really wearing anything. I don't think that's true, because essentially what it is, it's 2 pairs of equipment. You put a vest on, and then you put the plate over the vest, so 2-in-1, if you will. You got full range of motion. You put your jersey on, it doesn't even look like you're wearing pads, but the vest is what serves as protection, not so much the plate. So you're gonna be totally fine. They're totally safe. Plenty of guys wear it. It's just some guys maybe don't like that. They feel a little psyched out, and that's obviously important. You don't want to feel uncomfortable, but that's a great pair of pads, you guys. And they're on the expensive side of things. They have like 2 options. They have a polyester plate and a carbon fiber plate. Carbon fiber plate is outrageously overpriced in my opinion. I recommend the polyester because I don't really think it's going to make that big of a difference. So I recommend the polyester version. They're expensive. The cheaper of all 3 of those options would be the Battle pads. So if you're looking for cheap, good pads, recommend Battle. But if you want to spend a little bit of money, those are the pads that I recommend. So fellas, let's talk a little bit about gloves. So when it comes to gloves, again, 3 brands that I'd recommend to you. So the first one is going to be Rival gloves, R-I-V-E-L. These were gloves that everybody was talking to me about for about like a whole year, and I hadn't tried them on. Somebody gave me a pair, and great gloves. Very, very good stick, very, very comfortable, and they last a long time because I've had those for about like maybe I would say like a few months, use them constantly, and the grip hasn't really worn off on them yet, so I think it's a great pair of gloves. Second pair that I recommend is Cutters, believe it or not. They're new gloves, like Cutters 6.0 gloves, and I think it's probably 7.0 now. Immensely sticky, very comfortable, but I was actually pleasantly surprised with the amount of stick that the Cutters gloves have. Last but not least, I like the Adizero electric gloves. I think those are great gloves. I've had those for about 3 years. They're still very comfortable, still very sticky. They're not very sticky, but still sticky for the most part, I would say. So those 3 brands are easily some of the top brands in my opinion for receivers when it comes to gloves.